In my previous life, my daughter knew I was afraid of snakes, yet she still bought one and kept it at home, grinning as she watched me jump around in fear. My husband stood by coldly, saying we should respect our child's interests. He even put the snake in the bathroom while I was showering, claiming it would help desensitize me, which led to me falling to my death trying to escape through the window in panic. In this life, I want neither husband nor daughter. Hello? Hello? Mom, did you hear me? I said I have a big surprise for you. My daughter's gleeful voice makes me realize I've been reborn. I grip the phone tightly, trembling all over. In my previous life, she used the same cheerful tone to urge me to come home. When I opened the door, I was greeted by a snake. I've always been terrified of snakes. Just seeing pictures makes me break out in cold sweat. Yet at that moment, there was a real snake in front of me, flicking its tongue. I couldn't help but scream, asking my daughter to take the snake away, but she said innocently, "Mom, this is my pet. You need to be nice to it from now on." As she spoke, she walked towards me with the snake in her hands. My legs went weak and I couldn't stand steady. The small cake I bought for her fell to the ground, smashing into pieces. My daughter rushed over anxiously. "Mom, how could you be so careless? The cake is ruined." Her lips quivered as if about to cry, but I couldn't comfort her because as she moved, the small snake was also wiggling its body towards me. Ah! Ah! I turned to run but missed a step and fell down the stairs. My leg was broken. I held it in pain, then watched helplessly as the snake crawled up my body before fainting from fear. "Mom, are you even listening to what I'm saying? You're being very disrespectful." My daughter's shout interrupted my flashback. She scolded me in her childish voice. In the past, I would have found it cute and responded with a smile, "Okay, mommy was wrong. Will baby forgive mommy?" and then comforted her while she was pouting. But now, I don't want to deal with her anymore. I hung up the phone without a word and said to the bakery clerk, "I don't want this cake anymore." The clerk, who was in the middle of packaging, stopped and asked, "Ma'am, are you sure? This is the last one we have today." This was my daughter's favorite cake, but it was so popular that whenever I came to buy it after picking up my child, it was always sold out. Today, my husband unusually offered to pick up our child, which allowed me to come to the bakery early and get the last one. I said, "Yes, I'm sure. I don't want it, you can sell it to them." After a pause, I took out my membership card. "Please cancel my card and convert the balance to cash." This was my daughter's favorite bakery, and even with the membership discount, I had spent at least 20,000 yuan here. Now this money, I wouldn't give it to this ungrateful person, even if it was for charity. Cancelled the membership card, the balance increased by 5,000. From now on, this ungrateful person won't get a penny from me. My daughter called one after another. I got impatient and answered, "Dad, look. The little snake can crawl onto my hand." Hearing about the snake, I drew in a sharp breath. The other end let out an seemingly surprised that I answered the phone. But in an instant, her cheerful tone changed. "Mom, I called you. Why didn't you say anything and just hung up? That's very disrespectful to me." I ignored her questioning. "What did you just say about a snake?" "What? No, there's no snake." Yaya was caught off guard, not knowing how to answer. "Mom, come home. I have a surprise for you to see." The surprise she mentioned was this snake. Even though I had already exposed her, she still wouldn't tell the truth. The good daughter her father raised has learned what respect means and uses the word respect to make demands of me. But neither of them has ever respected me. My husband knew I was afraid of snakes, yet he secretly bought a snake home. For this, he even lied to me that he wouldn't work overtime today, giving me a day off, while he went to pick up Yaya himself. My daughter knew I was afraid of snakes, yet she wanted to trick me into coming home, to give me a scare, then show her malicious smile and say, "Mom, surprised? I've always wanted to keep one, and Dad made my wish come true." They knew I was afraid of snakes, yet they let it roam freely in the house, crawling onto my fractured, immobile leg. Seeing me lose all color from fear, they laughed heartily. Finally, they mercifully told me that my daughter was willing to compromise for my sake and keep the snake in a tank. Although I'm still very afraid, for Yaya's sake, I've been enduring my fear. Lying in bed unable to move, I still felt like a cold-blooded creature was staring at me constantly. During that time, every minute and second at home was torturous. I would often wake up from nightmares, frantically checking my entire body to make sure no snake had crawled onto me. Just when my broken bone had finally healed and I could take a shower, Sube secretly put a snake in the bathroom. As I was lowering my head to rinse the shampoo, I opened my eyes and was startled by the snake's head staring at me, causing me to hit the sink. In excruciating pain and seeing stars, I called out to Sube for help. He was just standing at the bathroom door. I could see his shadow. AI Shui, now that your fracture has healed, you need to clean the guest room bathroom. You have to learn to desensitize yourself. If you remain so afraid of snakes, Yaya will feel guilty. You should think about Yaya's feelings. After all, you're the only one who doesn't like snakes in this house now. You're the outlier. I felt utterly desperate, so irate that I climbed onto the toilet to get to higher ground. But the snake wouldn't leave me alone, approaching closer and closer. As I climbed up to the window, it coiled around my foot. The wet, slippery sensation triggered fear throughout my body, making me forget I was on the 6th floor as I leapt down. Even as I closed my eyes, I couldn't understand. Why would they do this to me? I always knew my daughter liked exotic pets. But my daughter also always knew I was afraid of exotic pets. It wasn't until I was reborn and heard my daughter's laughter that I realized. She has the same blood as my husband. My care and guidance during her infancy couldn't change her innate cold-bloodedness. Like my husband, she was born loving exotic pets. And like my husband, she looked down on me. You bought a snake, didn't you? I heard it all. Why won't you admit it? You know I'm afraid of snakes. Why are you forcing me like this? Remembering how I died in my previous life, I couldn't help but go crazy. My daughter was still in shock when I finished venting and hung up the phone. My husband sent a text message accusing me. What are you going crazy about? Is this how mothers should behave? Didn't we agree that we should treat children as independent individuals, respect and care for them? If you can't do that, why did you even have a child? What's wrong with Yaya wanting to keep a snake? Why are you making such a big deal out of it? She's crying and you still won't come home. Are you giving up on this family? Aishua, aren't you done making a scene? You think you're still a young maiden and we're just dating? You want everyone to pamper you. If you don't come home, who's going to cook? Did you buy the cake Yaya wanted? You may not care about other things, but you can't even fulfill a child's wish for a cake. I find it laughable that after everything I've done for this family, in the eyes of both father and daughter, I'm still an inadequate wife and an inadequate mother. After marriage, I thought since our financial situation was modest, we shouldn't rush to have children. But Sube said I was getting old, and if we waited a few more years, the egg quality would decline, making it not only harder to conceive, but also increase the risk of miscarriage. Even if the baby was born, they would likely have poor health. My anxiety blinded me, and I completely forgot that Sube was 5 years older than me. If anyone had quality issues, it should have been Sube. Later, when I got pregnant, Sube would touch my belly all day, saying that once the child was born, he would personally teach them, ensuring they'd grow up to be independent, excellent, and respected. Seeing his fatherly expression, I felt relieved that I hadn't chosen the wrong person. He said my uterine conditions weren't good and wanted me to take early maternity leave to protect the pregnancy. I didn't want. NT2. I had just passed my probation period at work, and if I took leave now, my superiors would think I was just there to scam maternity leave. But he looked at me with contempt. From the moment you got pregnant, your boss would look at you unfavorably anyway. Not taking leave now would be the real loss. I couldn't argue with him, so I took leave under my colleagues' and superiors' meaningful glances. She's not even showing yet. Just past probation. Doesn't that mean she got pregnant during the trial period? I remember those bald male managers said they didn't want to hire female employees, but Sister Chun assured them that for the urgent 6-month project period, there definitely wouldn't be any issues. Even if she's pregnant, given her healthy condition, she doesn't need to take maternity leave so early. Who knows, maybe she has her own undisclosed reasons. I spent my entire pregnancy feeling both excited and anxious. Excited about the arrival of new life, excited about returning to work, anxious about raising a child, anxious about working again. But as soon as the baby was born, Sube wanted me to quit my job. Breastfeeding is healthier for the baby. You're a mother now. Your first priority should be considering the child. You can't be so selfish. I was too weak after giving birth to argue with him. Looking at the infant in swaddling clothes, I felt tenderness again. At that time, I thought Sube was right. For this child, I could sacrifice everything. But when I resigned, my colleague's words, she was indeed just trying to scam maternity leave, still hurt me. Sube seemed to be comforting me, yet also seemed to be looking down on them. People who haven't had children just don't understand. Nurturing a new life is a woman's greatest value. I ordered takeout, enjoying a moment of freedom I hadn't experienced since getting married. Since getting married, I haven't eaten takeout anymore. Sube says takeout is unhealthy, but he never cooks and requires me to get up early to buy fresh vegetables. After making breakfast, I prepare lunch, making a bento according to Sube's health principles and preferences for him to take to the office. He says, "Honey, it's too much trouble for you to go home to cook lunch, and it wastes too much time going back and forth. I care about you. After work, I have to rush to buy vegetables for dinner, and as soon as I get home, I put on an apron and wash my hands to cook. After meals, I wash dishes, do laundry, and clean the house. I'm both working and doing the duties of a housewife. This is also one of the reasons why I'm willing to listen to Su-bae and become a full-time mom. Being a full-time mom, not having to work, you'll be much more relaxed, I'll support you." He says it so casually, but after Yaya was born, I'm responsible for everything from food to daily care. He doesn't know how to prepare for Mula, doesn't know how to change diapers, and sleeps in the guest room at night because he complains the baby is too noisy. But when the child grew up and took the initiative to help me sweep the floor, he said, "Yaya, Dad will tell you, you need to learn to be independent. Look, sweeping is your mom's job. Mom is an adult, this is what she should do. You shouldn't help her, understand?" I was a bit annoyed. "Su-bae, what do you mean by what I should do? Housework should be shared by the whole family. Yaya has grown up and is consciously trying to help her mother and share my burden. Why would you teach her like this? You're not working anymore, so if housework isn't your job, is it mine? We agreed that men work outside and women take care of the home. Can't you be more mature? Do you really need a child to help you with such a small task? That's why I want to teach Yaya to be independent, so she doesn't become like you." His tone suddenly rose. Yaya was scared and started crying. He then turned to scold me. "Why are you interfering when I'm teaching the child? Getting angry for no reason. Do you know you're affecting the child's mental health?" So this is what he meant by saying he supports me. Though I no longer go to work, I haven't done any less housework. It's no easier than having a job. Yet he takes it all for granted. And he keeps preaching to our child about being independent. I find it ironic, as parents should be role models for their children. He expects everything handed to him, won't even pick up a fallen soy sauce bottle, never empties the full garbage bin, can walk around a water spill for 3 days without mopping it. What right does he have to teach our child about independence? He wants our child Yaya to be respected, so he constantly uses respect to manipulate me. Not cooking Yaya's favorite dishes is disrespectful, not picking up Yaya from school on time is disrespectful, entering Yaya's room without permission is disrespectful, letting Yaya find trash in her room is disrespectful. Respect, respect. For their twisted concept of respect, I've paid with my life. But who has ever respected me? The more I think about it, the angrier I get. I told Su-bae, I want a divorce. He asked, "Why? You want respect? Fine, I'll respect you. Since you like keeping snakes, I'll leave this home to you." Maybe they really hate me. When I mentioned divorce, Yaya called me several times to berate me for being an irresponsible mother and wife. I asked calmly, "Who taught you to say that?" Yaya proudly replied, "I'm grown up now, and I understand what's right. Other mothers either go out to earn money or do housework well at home. Why can't you earn money or do housework properly? You're completely incompetent." My classmates' mothers all respect them, letting them keep cats and dogs, and the mothers walk them and clean up after them. But you? As soon as you heard I kept a snack. You wouldn't even come home. I listened to her patiently, then added calmly, "Yes, and when I wanted to keep a dog before, did you allow me to?" Yaya was left speechless. Su-bae doesn't like dogs, thinking they shed fur. He says walking dogs wastes time and affects his quality of life. But I end up walking the dog 9 times out of 10. Ultimately, he's worried I won't have energy left to take care of him and his daughter. Yaya neither particularly likes nor dislikes dogs. Su-bae pulls her aside, telling her how troublesome keeping a dog would be, saying the minority should follow the majority, trying to get her to take his side. If Yaya agrees to keep a dog, it would infringe on his rights. To respect her dear father, Yaya raised her objection. In the end, we didn't get the dog. You know your classmates keep cats and dogs. Ask them, how many of them would accept having a snake in their home? Yaya wanted to argue, but everyone is different. What right do you have to not let me keep a snake? I'll allow it. I'll give the house to you all to keep snakes. You can keep them on my bed, whatever you like. From now on, these things will have nothing to do with me. Su-bae stood to the side making cold remarks. Whatever, come back or not, it's not like this home can't function without you, right? This question, I'm also eager to hear the answer. So I reminded Su-bae, don't forget, tomorrow we're going to file for divorce. I want to withdraw and distance myself before they realize how important I am as their housekeeper. Unfortunately, there's still a 1-month cooling-off period for the divorce. In 1 month, we'll meet without fail. Don't you regret it? After leaving me, who else will spoil you like this? At the Civil Affairs Bureau, Su-bae's tail was held high in the air. He was certain I couldn't leave him. But in this era, I have healthy limbs and body. What couldn't I do to support myself? Without those two as my burden, I would truly be welcoming a new life. Dad made fried rice with eggs and added my favorite spicy sauce. When I received Yaya's text message, I instinctively wanted to contact Su Bei. When she was young, I was afraid that exposing her to strong flavors too early would affect her taste development, so I always restricted Yaya's diet. I promised her she could have spicy snacks after starting elementary school, but whenever she ate them, she complained of stomach pain. Examination revealed she had a weak digestive system, fine for daily life, but heavy oil and spicy food would worsen her condition. So I became more careful about her diet. But the more I forbade things, the more Su Bei wanted to do them. I had quite a few arguments with him, and Yaya thought I was making trouble out of nothing. Opening the text box, I suddenly realized that I had already drawn a clear line between us. These days, I still think of Yaya occasionally. Family name and habits aren't easily changed. After all, I raised Yaya with such effort, it's impossible to say there are no feelings at all. But she seems to treat getting away from me as something wonderful, endlessly showing off, which truly makes my heart cold. She especially sends me many photos and videos of small snakes on purpose. Mom, look how cute. Even though you've abandoned me, I still want to share my happiness with you. You don't support my hobby, which really makes me sad. If you knew how happy I am now, would you understand me better? Su Bei even mocked me. Without you, we are happier in our lives. I like snakes. Yaya likes snakes. In this family, you're the odd one out. Originally for your sake, Yaya even prepared a container. You're afraid of snakes, so Yaya put it in a container to keep. But you didn't even give one chance, directly wanting to abandon this family, just because of a pet. But this isn't an ordinary pet. He said the same words as in my previous life, also inadvertently revealing the truth. So they had prepared the tank from the beginning. Yet during the days I was lying down recovering, they still let the snake move freely around the house, even allowing it to crawl onto my body. I felt a chill, not understanding why they harbored such malice toward me. And I completely lost any desire to see my daughter. After receiving Yaya's text message, I felt only disgust. When I didn't contact for one day, Su Bei could still remain calm. When I didn't contact for a week, Su Bei began to get anxious. Are you sure you're not coming back? It seems the household chores were suffocating him, and he had also abandoned his lofty parenting philosophies. Yaya called crying, saying that Dad's cigarette butts were all over the coffee table, burning several holes in her homework. She said the dishes were piled up in layers, and Dad taught her to be independent by washing dishes herself. She said a snake had crawled into her school bag. She took it to school, was isolated by classmates, and her parents were called in. At this moment, my mood is completely undisturbed. I used to empty the ashtray before, but only once every 2 days. On the first day, you would say I wasn't prompt in taking out the trash, wasn't self-aware, and made the house smell of smoke. You all said housework is for people without jobs. Now that your dad is working, shouldn't you wash the dishes? Yeah, you're growing up. Even if no one teaches you these principles, you should understand. The snake was bought by your dad. Why are you complaining to me? Didn't you really like it and always want to keep one? Why didn't you think of these issues before keeping it? Or were you expecting me to clean up after you once you got the snake? I've never been so cold to her. Yaya's voice sounded a bit panicked. Mom, I'll keep it in a jar to raise it. Will you come home? Me? I softly uttered 2 words, no. When Su Bei's parents heard about my divorce, they rushed into the city anxiously. They called me using Su Bei's phone. I put it on speaker, letting it play like background music from a cliché TV drama while I continued what I was doing. AI Shui, don't blame me for saying this, but you're really being unreasonable. After years of marriage, you want a divorce over something so small. What snake in our village? They're very common. They're medicinal herbs. What's there to be afraid of? You can't just do whatever you want based on your temperament. When you're not home, how can a man and a child manage? Who will wash the clothes and cook the meals? Our Su Bei is right. As a woman, family should be your top priority. If the child likes it, you should just put up with it. Why make such a big deal? If you ask me, you're just being overly sensitive. You haven't even seen it in person and you say you're scared. You should at least try to get used to it, right? I've never heard of anyone getting divorced over this. Kids these days just like new and interesting things. Who knows, they might get bored and toss it aside in a couple of days. Why are you taking this so seriously? Nagging on, endlessly. I suggested, since you like it so much, why don't you go live with the snake for a few days? Su Bei's father thought there was still a chance to turn things around, so he asked, if we go stay for 2 days, you won't get divorced, right? I didn't answer, to avoid giving them any leverage. Before the call ended, I faintly heard Su Bei's mother spit out. What nonsense. We'll just stay there to show her, otherwise she'll think everyone's as fussy as she is. Su Bei's parents did indeed move in. For the first few days, everything was peaceful, and the two of them were quite popular. After all, new housekeepers had arrived. There was someone to cook meals, someone to sweep the floors, and they kept calling Su Bei darling and Yaya sweetheart. Su Bei smugly sent me a photo with the message, "Without you, we're still living very well." I replied, "How long can your parents take care of you? When you're old and gray, they won't be able to look after you anymore." Oh, silly me. You're counting on Yaya to take care of you when you're old, right? Watch your mouth, Aishua. My parents are in good health. Besides, when I'm old, I'll have my daughter to care for me. You'll be the miserable one when you're old. As longtime spouses, we're now like enemies, saying whatever hurtful things we can think of. I asked back, "Are you sure? Your parents aren't young anymore. Who knows when something might happen to them?" Those words became a prophecy, as Su Bei's parents indeed ended up in the hospital. But it wasn't a natural disaster, it was a human-caused accident. They really weren't trying to fool me. They truly weren't afraid of snakes. Not only were they unafraid, Su Bei's father even became interested in the snake's medicinal value. He wanted to make medicinal wine to treat his rheumatism. The two of them had planned to kill the snake as soon as they got home, since Yaya was getting tired of it too. Unexpectedly, someone was taking care of it, and Yaya became enthusiastic about the snake again, treating it with special care. Su Bei also wouldn't let them handle it. After waiting for half a month, the two felt it would be too late if they didn't act soon. So they took action during the interval when Su Bei took Yaya out. The medicinal wine jar was hidden in the second bedroom, and they tricked Yaya by saying the snake had escaped through the window. Yaya believed it was true and ran out crying, searching everywhere. Neighbors saw her crying so miserably and asked what was wrong. She said, "I lost my pet." "Oh, we'll help you look for it together. What does it look like?" "It's a green snake." Yaya took out the snake's shed skin from home. "It looks like this." They say the shouting in the residential complex echoed for a long time that day. Someone was keeping a snake, and it got lost. Everyone was very nervous. Even if it's not venomous, snakes are scary to look at. Few people aren't afraid of them. The reason exotic pets are called exotic is because they're not within the range of pets normally kept by people. It's a niche interest. Not to mention Yaya's snake, which would eventually grow to be 1 meter long. People in the neighborhood were panicking, and the property management was desperate to turn the whole area upside down searching. They even called the fire department. Seeing the situation, Su Bei's parents didn't dare to tell the truth. Their mouths were now sealed shut like they had zippers on them. How was it discovered later? The old man didn't know how to make medicinal wine, and there was a strange smell in the room. Yaya followed the smell and found it, causing a big scene at home. These days, Su Bei has been busy apologizing everywhere, completely exhausted. Today, after another busy day, he returned home to find wine spilled all over the floor, and the snake they had been looking for days was lying in a puddle of liquid. After learning what happened, he became furious. The four people started arguing, and Yaya even pushed and shoved, sending the old man to the hospital in anger. At the hospital bedside, Yaya was still saying, "I'll beat you to death. I'll beat you to death." Su Bei's father beat his chest in dismay. "Granddaughter, your grandfather has poured his heart out for you. What haven't I given you? Just for a snake, this is how you treat me." Yaya cried loudly, "Give me back my little snake. Give back my snake. If you're sick, but why did you kill it? Your illness can't be cured anyway." This was truly a case of a heartless person meeting an unreasonable one. Eventually, Su Bei's mother couldn't take it anymore and promised to buy another snake. Yaya went to select it herself and brought it home in a small box covered with black cloth. On the way, when a neighbor asked what they bought, Su Bei's mother, not having learned her lesson, was about to speak when Yaya elbowed her arm. "Nothing, just bought some flowers." Her father had told her beforehand that she must never tell anyone they kept a snake at home. This bizarre behavior left me completely astonished. Fortunately, Su Bei was self-important enough to brag about these things to me as part of his loving father image. I won't say much, I'm just waiting to see the show. After all, the 1-month cooling-off period has passed, and we're about to get divorced. Originally, it seemed certain, but unexpectedly Su Bei started causing trouble again. Since his father was hospitalized, he only took care of him for 1 day before complaining about being tired. Su Bei's mother has to take the child to school every day, cook, do housework, and go back and forth to the hospital, also complaining constantly. So Su Bei came up with an idea, delaying the divorce to make me take care of his father. "We're not divorced yet, you have the obligation to take care of my father. If you do it well, I might forgive you, and we can live well together in the future." "Why should I? I slammed the table. Your father is your father. What obligation do I have? You kept saying you could live well without me. Now you want to drag me along to continue being a maid. Subei's father lay in bed going, ouch, ouch. I rolled my eyes. Old man, stop yelling. Your son has no time to take care of you. Just endure a bit of discomfort at the hospital. It's better than turning the whole house upside down. Hey you. Watch your mouth. Subei, your wife's temper is getting worse. I won't be his wife anymore in the future, so you can't control me. Subei, if you don't divorce me, I'll go to your neighborhood and tell them you're keeping snakes again. Your neighbors don't know about this yet, do they? Previously, Subei had the property management office inform everyone that the snake hadn't escaped, but that an elderly family member had taken it to make medicinal wine. He even sent photos to calm people down. If they found out that as soon as one snake left, another arrived, it wouldn't be so easy to settle things peacefully. Is that so? He rolled his eyes. AI Shui, I know you have a bad temper, you're cunning, and always seek revenge. You must hate me now. Whether I divorce you or not, you'll find ways to ruin my reputation. I stood with my arms crossed, watching him talk nonsense. I won't get divorced, say whatever you want. You're just a snake. No matter how scared the neighbors are, they can't do anything to me. Divorce won't hurt me, but not divorcing won't do any good. When you're unhappy, I'm happy. Why? He spoke with increasing enthusiasm. Finally speaking your true feelings. I gave a cold laugh. Yes, as long as we're married, you have the obligation to take care of me no matter how bad things get. If you don't take care of me, taking care of the children can still help ease a lot of my pressure. To be honest, how good was our life before? Every day when I came home, the house was clean, the food was delicious, and the children were well behaved. Every day after work, if I was in a good mood, I'd go out for a few drinks. If I wasn't, I'd just lie down at home. Why do we have to make things so unpleasant? That's because you got all the benefits. The house was clean because I rushed to clean it after work. The food was delicious because I woke up early to buy groceries and cook. The children were well behaved because I taught them well for your amusement. Subei, I've never understood. I respect that you like exotic pets. Everyone has their quirks. So even though I'm very afraid, when I see you putting snake photos in books, on the desk, and on bookshelves, I've endured it all. I avoid them when I can, and when I can't, I still clean with squinted eyes. But why did you have to buy a snake and keep it at home? Just because you and Yaya like it, does that mean you can disregard my feelings? What do I mean to you both? Even strangers wouldn't deliberately put a snake in someone's bed. Hearing my angry accusations, Subei squinted his eyes with satisfaction. Because I can't stand to see you happy. Why can't I keep pets just because you don't like them? I'm the head of this household. Others praise you for being a virtuous wife and mother, keeping the house in perfect order, making me look good, but that's what you're supposed to do. What's there to praise? You weren't like this before, it's all thanks to me you up. If I don't like you working, you have to quit. If I don't like trouble, you have to take care of everything at home, including the kids. If I want to experience the joy of raising children, you have to bring the kids to me so I can teach them. When you obey, I'm happy. You're doing okay in various aspects now, except that exotic pets are your bottom line. But why should I have to live according to your bottom line? I looked at him in shock. So this is what he was thinking. All he wanted was to constantly cross my boundaries. There was no deep hatred or grudge, nor was it a sudden impulse. He simply wanted to dominate me in every way and make me unhappy. What a terrifying person. I actually spent so many years with someone like this, and nearly spent the rest of my life with him. Realizing that reasoning with him was like playing music to a cow, I stopped wasting my breath. But before leaving, I couldn't help myself. I stared at him intently and said word by word, Subei, karma will catch up with you. As I said this, the manner of my death from my previous life flashed before my eyes. This blessing is sincere, Subei. I can't get divorced right away, so I've rented an apartment. If things remain peaceful and we're separated for the required time, I can get divorced then. If Subei and Yaya cause trouble again, I can also proceed with filing for divorce. After moving into my new place, I found a job nearby. The pay is average, but I can learn a lot, and the salary increases with experience. My previous career was ruined by Subei and my past unclear-headed self. People in the industry communicate with each other and would consider my instability. I can't go back to that industry anymore. I've started replanning my career path and made my small apartment very cozy. Although I'm still doing housework, my mindset and the results are completely different from before. Subei was unhygienic, and with all the children's things, I used to follow behind cleaning up, but even mopping twice a day couldn't keep it clean. Now in my rental apartment, I do one thorough cleaning each week, with daily light sweeping, and it's already very clean and bright. No need to wake up early to buy groceries, and the vegetables for lunch and dinner aren't as stale as Sube claimed. When cooking, I can consider my own taste preferences without rushing. Sometimes when I make extra and share with colleagues, they immediately brighten up and praise me. Sister AI, it's so delicious. You could open a restaurant. My confidence, which had been crushed to rock bottom, started to recover slightly. Sube was stingy with his praise, and Yaya completely ignored my efforts. After just 1 month away from them, I discovered how beautiful the outside world is. As my perspective broadened, I gradually stopped dwelling on toxic people and situations and blocked Sube and the others. The next time I heard news about Sube from others was when the hospital called. Hello, is this Ms. AI? Mr. Sube has fallen from upstairs and is currently undergoing emergency treatment. Would you be able to come here now? The incident happened very suddenly. I was stunned for a moment, then looked at my computer screen where my newly written proposal was displayed. It felt like one phone call could pull me back into the abyss of the past. Today I firmly decided, it's not convenient, our relationship has broken down and I'm planning to file for divorce. Please contact his parents. Just as the nurse was about to hang up, there came wailing from the other end. Mom, come to the hospital quickly. Dad is dying. It was Yaya. What happened? I asked. Dad was cleaning windows and somehow he fell from the window. I almost thought I had heard wrong. Sube fell from a window? Just like in my past life? My heart skipped a beat. While saying it's none of my business, I quietly went to the hospital. Sube's parents weren't by his side. Perhaps they went to pay tea. He bills. Yaya was nowhere to be found either. I walked to the bedside, looking at Sube's haggard face. Yaya said you fell from the window. I couldn't help but mock. Did you come to laugh at me? He was weak, yet still forced a smile. Still better than you. When you fell back then, you didn't even make it to the hospital before you died. I stood frozen. What do you mean? You also got reborn? Am I supposed to think you're the only special one? He coughed twice, but it seemed painful. If you weren't afraid of snakes, how did you fall from the windowsill? Did you deliberately jump down to atone for me? It was Yaya, that little troublemaker. She also kept a lizard uncaged. When I was cleaning the windows, the snake and lizard started fighting at my feet, bit me, my foot slipped and I fell. It's laughable, don't you think it's karma? Suddenly a surprised exclamation from behind. Mom. You're here. I turned around to see Yaya running over excitedly, wanting to hug me. I stepped aside to avoid her, looking down at her coldly. Do you know how your father fell? Her face turned pale then flushed as she bit her lip and said pitifully, I don't know. Really? I pressed on. It was your snake and lizard that bit him while he was hanging in the air cleaning windows, causing him to fall. It was Dad's own carelessness. She blurted out. He's not even afraid of snakes. Why did he pull back his foot just from one bite? If he hadn't pulled back, he wouldn't have fallen. Did you hear that, Sube? This is what your well-taught daughter just admitted. Seeing Sube's increasingly disappointed look, Yaya stammered. And no, Dad, that's not what I meant. Like dogs fighting dogs, I didn't want to deal with this drama, so I turned and left. Shortly after, Sube passed away. He met his retribution before he could divorce me. It was the same way he died in my previous life. Although he managed to survive a few more days, at least it gave me some closure. After all, I didn't do anything. This was the consequence of their own actions. If they hadn't kept snakes, if they hadn't let them roam free, if either one of them had actually stopped, they wouldn't have faced these consequences. I don't want to raise Yaya. She'll be under the care of Sube's parents. Until she becomes an adult, I just need to pay child support on time. Yaya used to look down on me, thinking I didn't contribute to the family. But after leaving them, I can not only support myself, but also have more than enough to pay for her child support. I heard Sube's parents thought keeping snakes was unlucky and forced Yaya to get rid of them. But whether it was post-traumatic stress disorder, psychological distortion, or addiction to keeping them, Yaya not only refused to get rid of them, but kept getting more and more. Sube's parents were at their wits' end. They weren't afraid of 1 or 2 snakes, but having the whole house full of snakes, rearing up and flicking their tongues at them, really gave them the creeps. Now they couldn't keep it secret in the neighborhood anymore, and the whole community signed a petition asking them to move out. With no other choice, Sube's parents took Yaya back to their rural hometown. Before leaving, Yaya still didn't give up and called me, Mom, I don't understand. Why would you abandon me just because I have my own little hobby? I sighed. If you don't understand, then don't. Your father lived for decades and remained the same until his death. I don't expect you to understand now. Then Mom, can you come back? No, the mother who used to compromise at